So I got to thinking about my experiences growing up and seeing, have I ever seen a successful relationship and just the foundation of, relationships between men and women? And, so the men around in my family, they were very attractive. So I've seen, literally all my life, just going from being a little girl, women like shamelessly throwing themselves at men because the men in my family were quite attractive. And just watching, I even remember just thinking about the foundation of the relationships that I have with men and just really just doing some soul searching and digging. And I remember just as far back as I could remember, my dad would take me with him. And I was a little girl. I was just only a little girl. And he would tell people that, if women would approach him, he would say, "Oh, this is my little sister." And he'd be like, "Oh my gosh, she's so cute." And I was like a little attention grabber because women would just come up to him and be like, "Oh my gosh, she's so cute." And, say things to him. And he'd say that I was his little sister. And, it wasn't something that was painful for me, at the time. When you're a kid, you see your parents, you see no wrong in what they're doing. Looking back as an adult woman, I can look at it and be like, "Oh my God, what a sleazeball." But being a kid, it was just, spending time with my dad. And this is just what we did when we were out. And women would, come and approach him. And he'd tell people I was his sister. And, um, and he'd also talk to me about, what was attractive and what wasn't attractive. And so I literally, as a little girl, would go and people watch, well, women watch with my dad. So yeah, I went out and I got bitches with my dad. That's crazy. So that's my foundation, pulling bitches. Okay. But I know it's insane to even think about that, right? Like, uh, it's crazy when I really sit back and think about like how I was raised and just completely different perspective from most people. And so, he'd tell me, he'd point out a woman and he'd say, she's out of shape or this and that. And so, and it even reflected on myself. There's a certain like, I don't care about. I don't try and overanalyze my body, but there is a certain number that I can't weigh this much, And so I think it's just kind of stuck with me. I have that like ingrained in me because going out with my dad and just realizing like he'd say, this is good and that is bad. And just like literally just pointing out different scenarios and saying, and then I'd be like, "Dad, is that a good one?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, that one's a good one. But this one's an even better one." And so I'd be like, okay, just looking back and man, it's crazy to think about a man going out and, talking to other women with their kid. And so, so these are the things that I've seen. And then the other women in my family that have been in relationships, and my dad and my mom were together like all of my life. The only reason why they separated was because, something had happened, because they got locked up, and that's a whole nother story. Um, and, the other women that I've seen that have been, where people can look at you and say, "Well, I've been married for 20, 30 years. Like, what are you doing?" It's like, well, I've watched all these relationships. I've watched you over the 20, 30 years. And some of the things that you guys have done, I just now at this age, and it's like some things that I've seen in other people's relationships where I'm like, I know I wouldn't want to tolerate that, but it's those same people that will look at me and be like, "Well, we've been together for 30 years." And it's like, well, in your 30 years, I've seen some things and I know I don't want to live like that. And so maybe it's made me a little hypersensitive to some things. Um, I'll never forget. I saw one of my I almost wanted to say her name, so I had to catch myself. But I saw someone. We were at church. Listen, we are at church. Okay, they have been together all of my life. Maybe at this time I'm like in my 30s, and so I haven't seen them in a long time. We're at church. It was actually a funeral. I have to remember what year that was. So I'm thinking I'm in my 30s, maybe my late 20s, and they've been together all my life. And so it's a beautiful couple. They have like 4 or 5 kids, and I've watched her. So I've watched her husband go out with other women. There was even at times where we're all kids together, so I would play with his kids, and then he would take us all to go and visit his other outside kids. But we're just kids, so we're not understanding. We're just going over this other family's home, right? Like, oh, we're just going to go play with such and such, not understanding like, oh, these is his other kids, and and it's interesting to see people, when these things happen, right? It's like, okay, my father had kids, outside of my mom, and then the people hate the kids, and it's like you can't hate the kids, like put your if for all the and I have so many brothers and sisters I haven't met, and I have no animosity against them. I understand, like, you have to understand that for the people that are in the same scenario as me and a lot of other people that may be related to so many, have outside families or, so many brothers and sisters outside of your birth mom. I don't relate to people that have animosity towards those kids. And I understand it because it's like, oh, you hurt my mom, you had outside kids. But at the end of the day, those are your brothers and sisters. It's like, don't place the blame on them, you know? But I don't know. I guess I just look at everything from a higher perspective. I guess I just look at things from a higher perspective. So watching I'm just going to call her my cousin. Okay. So watching my cousin fight. So there's women, her husband was talking to women, I'm not even gonna say like talking, like that sounds dumb. There was women around that he was actively, having sex with, and I know they would just come around. Maybe I don't know what he was telling them, because these women would come around like nothing, like as if maybe they didn't know that that was his wife, and then they end up fighting. And so I literally watched her. I grew up watching her kick ass all my life. That woman, she was kicking everybody's ass. And I looked at, so now that I'm a woman, and I'm like, okay, so women would come around, your husband's, screwing all these different women, they would come around for whatever reason, and then she would fight them. And this went on for years and years. I mean, she was kicking so much ass. I literally grew up watching her. And then, like, as a woman, I'm like, dang, can you kick everyone's ass? Like, so you're just gonna keep fighting all these different women? I don't even remember not one time she even, uh, went at her husband like, you need to stop doing this. But it's interesting. So we're all at church, okay? The kids are dressed beautiful. Now the kids are grown. We're all at church. We're in our Sunday's best. Okay. So we're at church. Her and her husband, now they're older. Okay. And everybody's all smiles. And I looked at her and I'm like, wow, you guys are still together. And this is what she told me straight up. We are in church. I'm like, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, guys. So she said, yeah, we're together. She said, one day I just got tired of it. She said, and trigger warning here. Okay. She said, one day I just told him, I said, either this is going to stop, or I'm I'm in it all. Like we about to, everybody gonna check out. Like she literally told him that straight up, and she meant it, and she understood. Like he understood. She's like, I'm not playing with you. If one more person, and she's like, and I've never heard a peep out of him since. And I said, oh my God. And so again, we're in our Sunday's best. Everybody looks amazing. Everybody's all happy and smiles, and she was dead ass serious. Okay, this is a polished, established, beautiful family, and I'm sure she meant it. Because she see me talking to her and me growing up seeing her and everything and all the struggles, and she's still keeping her family together. She literally fought physically to keep her family together. And so and I know, like, I don't care who you are, where you're from, if you're going to be together with somebody for 20 or 30 years, you're going to have stories to tell, right? I understand that. I don't get into relationships thinking that, nothing's ever going to happen, and so I don't have unrealistic expectations. But there are some things, especially at this point in my life, where I'm just going to walk away if we're not on one accord. Um, a lot of people, like even my kids. So my kids have been in relationships, pretty happy relationships, like for over 3 years. And they're like, Mom, we found our person. They're engaged. They're getting married. And so they're like, Mom, what is going on with you? Like, get it together, girl. And so, and I just broke off an engagement. I was going to get married again, but I was like, I'll give you an example. So if you know anything about me, I like to walk. Walking it helps with stress. It helps with just overall, your health. It helps with everything. And just a lot of times, like when I'm out on a walk, so I like to get at least 10,000 steps a day. It's a great time to meditate, to pray. And I get a lot of ideas just like out, just going out on a walk. And so I'm out on a walk and I had a pain in the back of my leg. And so I found a curve and I was stretching on the side of the curve. I was trying to get to the pain on the side. I was stretching my hamstring. So I literally just stepped up on the curve and just like did a stretch. And like, no big deal, right? Like and I want to go back and say, I know, some people when they go out on a walk, it's this whole big fiasco. For me, I'm walking, like I'm pulling myself together. I'm not on a hot girl stroll. So, and I didn't understand this. I know I'm like going all over the place, but I was around this woman, and I really didn't understand this until at the time I was like 36 and she was like 42, and we were about to go work out. And I'm like, okay, I got my workout clothes on. I'm like, girl, let's go. And she's like, hold on a minute. And so she goes in the mirror and she's like putting on makeup. And I'm like, and so I was so dumbfounded. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, girl, we're just going to work out. And so I talked about her so bad for the longest while she does her makeup. Like, girl, what are you doing? Like, and so like now let's rewind it back to now. So now I'm 42. I don't walk out the house without a lip. So I may not do like a full face of makeup. And I didn't understand that there are women that at least do something to their face, even for a workout. But for me, when I'm working out, I'm literally pulling myself together. I don't care what it looks like. Like, I'm not on a hot girl stroll unless I'm out with my man. If I'm out with my man, I might throw in something sexy, a little flirty, something, I might have my stomach out. But if I'm not out with my man, I'm not trying to draw attention to myself. I'm literally just out there pulling myself together, maybe praying, maybe listening to something. I'm not out there I'm not seeking anything. But none this to say, after I did all that huffing and puffing with that girl that day, there was a colleague that I was doing my executive MBA with, and she was just like, you know what, we're not hanging out anymore. But and I understand. It was like, hey, you have to allow people to be who they are, and it's okay. I shouldn't have. I never saw that before, and I didn't understand that. That there's some women that do a full face of makeup to work out, and I understand now. So even now I get side eye when I go in, maybe do a little lip to work out, and I'm like, I'm in my auntie era now. I'm in my 40s now, so now I get it. I'm like, I'm gonna go in there with a little lip. Okay, so anyways, I don't know how we got to talking about that. Oh, yes. Okay. So I get back home and there's a step up. And so because I've been stretching my hamstring, so I just stepped up and I was stretching. And he was like, "Are you trying to like get attention?" And so literally I'm looking homely. I'm not, again, I'm not on a hot girl stroll. I am just out. I got my 10,000 steps, over 10,000 steps. I'm, not looking at best. I'm sweaty. And he's like, "Are you trying to like get the neighbor's attention or something?" And I'm like, "Are you for real? Like, we just had an amazing day. I'm about to come in and cook. And like, I wouldn't even do anything like that. Like, what would even make you think?" And it's like you're trying to pick an argument because you know that that's not in my personality. And it's like, what is the anger about? And so for me, I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I picked someone, a little bit older, someone that's older, thinking that the little petty arguments wouldn't be there, but it wasn't. I mean, I thought that maybe we would be exempt, we could be more laid back, but and I saw this video and this woman, they were interviewing a woman, she was in her 90s, and they were like, "Do men ever change?" And the lady was like, "No, don't expect them to change." And I was like, okay, now I understand. It's not about dating someone older. It's just really about finding someone's personality type, people that you guys can tolerate each other. And so I say this to say, so I've seen a lot growing up. I've seen my mom and dad, like even my mom and dad, they stuck together. My dad would complain about the type of woman that my mom was. My mom would stay gone for weeks. My mom was like partying like crazy, but at the end of the day, that is who he gave his attention to. You know what I'm saying? That's who he gave his love and attention to. All those other women that I saw my dad going after, I mean, nice, clean, I mean, crying, dedicated, nice, clean, good girls. Treated them like crap. I'm seeing these women cry over my dad. I'm seeing like good women but he didn't want that. That's not who he gave his attention to. That's not who he gave his love and affection to. He, stuck by my mom. Was he complaining? Absolutely. He just stuck there and he was just talking crap about her. And it's like, yeah, okay, you're not worth nothing but a penny. But at the end of the day, this is who you're spending your time with. And so some people just want to function in dysfunction. They're used to, like, they want, if a woman isn't a little spicy, they feel like the relationship's a little boring. And they can, and these are the same guys that'll get online and it'll be like, "Oh, there's no good women," or "Man," and keep trash talking like, "Oh yeah, this is how modern women are." Well, there are other women out there that you could have had a chance with, but you ignored that woman. You ignored that woman and you chose the woman that you chose. And now you're on a podcast trashing all women, saying that, "Oh, all women are like this." No, the women that you're choosing are like that. There are other women that, and it's like, "Oh, I wanted a dime piece." Well, the other woman, she's a dime piece too. She's just not showing it on display. She's just not having she doesn't have a face full of makeup caked up on her face, and she doesn't have her ass out. Maybe she's got a better body. You chose this woman because you liked her hairstyle, you liked her body, and you like how she presents herself. And the other woman's a little, "Oh, she looks homely. She's a 5." Okay, she just doesn't have her body out there on display. And so I say this to say a lot of people are really starting to get discouraged in finding someone, and I really analyze myself just from a true standpoint. I think people just really need to be honest with themselves and say, "Hey, I've actually passed up some solid people. I've really passed up some solid people, and I'm not the one that would, like, I'm not picking my person in a way where I'm being superficial. Like, I'm not looking at someone and they have to be this tall or that, and so all of this is happening right now today. The disagreements between men and women is because people are picking on a surface level instead of getting down to the core of you know can actually spend a life or build a life with this person. And I thought I did a really good job this time around, and but you just really don't know until time goes on if if it's sustainable. Like, if this person is actually like this, or is it just something that they're just showing up for the first year or the second year. And again, the person was in like a 10-year marriage, and what they did and how they handled each other was they would cuss each other out. She called him names, he called her names, and I mean, that's how they functioned. That was their successful relationship. And I mean, eventually they split, but he got used to that is how you function in a relationship. And I'm not doing it. I've seen too much. I've been through too much. Like, I understand there will be arguments, but to intentionally argue, there are people that have that kind of personality type, and those two types of people can, that's how they want their relationship to be. They want it like that. I have a sister, her and her, like, if you're around her and her husband, you're going to hear arguments. You're going to hear them argue. They've been together. "Oh, we've been together, 25 years. Okay. I can't be, um, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live in a relationship where we're just cussing each other out every single day about dumb stuff and kicking each other's ass. I'm not doing it. I'm not. And I mean, there's other people. It's like, "Oh, well, we're not cussing each other out. We're not kicking each other's ass." And it's like, yeah, you're not, but your wife is having a relationship with someone else, It's like, yeah, you guys have been together for 25 years. It's because you guys basically, you have a relationship outside and she has a relationship outside. You guys basically have an open relationship. You have an open marriage. You won't say that. And you're keeping your relationship secret from each other. So it feels like you guys are having a regular marriage. You guys don't know. He knows he has a mistress, but he doesn't know that she has a mistress. I don't know. And nothing's perfect, right? The only perfect place in this world is heaven. We're all flawed humans. But I don't want, seeing what I've seen in my life and coming from where I come from, I'm not about to have, I'm not going to have a life where there's so much dysfunction. Like I'm such a chill, non-problematic person in my relationships. I literally try and diffuse. The day that I decided to leave, it was like, he was like yelling and screaming, trying to like start an argument. And I'm like, dude, we're about to have an amazing night. I'm about to cook. So literally someone is on level 10 and I'm like so zen, but I can only do that for so long. I can only do that for so long and I can only do that for so many times, And so I'm like, you know what? Either I stay here and I go on level 10 with you, which I'm not going to do. You're not going to take me there. I don't want to function in a relationship like that. Cause it's like, oh, why did you leave? You could have stayed here. And I don't want to stay in that. I don't want to stay in that, especially if it's not necessary. Like if we're going to argue, let it be over something. Don't let it be over, I'm being accused of trying to get attention. Like, are we for real here? Like, I wish I had a picture of what I had on that day and what I looked like. I was looking crazy. Like, I understand there's women that go out there on a walk, they go on a hot girl stroll. No, I literally be out there pulling myself together. But I'm not going to worry about relationships or focus on that. That's just going to take a back burner in my life right now. And I know that when God is ready for me to have whatever it is that He wants me to have, it'll come to me. But in the meantime, all these people that are in these dysfunctional marriages that are side eyeing me or that are turning their nose up at me or asking me like, oh, so what are you doing now? So tell me about the relationship you're in now. It's like, worry about your own relationship. Find out, find out what's going on in your own life. And a lot of times people will say, oh, well, we'll have a baby. Sometimes there'll be a breakdown in a relationship and I'm like, oh, we keep having babies. It's like, okay, keep having babies. You can keep doing that. But at the end of the day, it's not going to fix the foundation of the relationship. That's what I saw an interview with T-Pain, and T-Pain said, I'm in this industry. And so I've been in this industry over 2 decades, and you get to see people in their relationships. And he said, I'm winning in life because my wife doesn't hate me, and I'm like, that's it. You're living an actual, true, authentic life that you want to live. You're not with someone that you don't want to be with. Like, I can't pretend in my relationship. I'm not going to do that. I want to be with someone because I actually want to be with them, not because, I have to be with them because we have like 10 kids or, I have to be with them because I depend on them to, pay my bills. Like, I don't care. I don't care about the money. I will leave. I'll figure it out on my own. I'm not for it. So all these people that are in these relationships that stay in them and that, oh, well, what are you doing now? I'm not doing what you're doing. You've decided to do what you're doing, and that's okay. And this is my life. And if I get into another relationship and it's not right for me, I'll leave again. Like I'm not going um, I'm not even going to say I'm not going to settle, because again, I feel like these things are like, there's some people that have some unreasonable requirements, right? And I'm not going to say that because I may think someone's requirement is unreasonable, and someone may say, oh, that's nothing, that's just standard. I don't have unrealistic expectations of someone, but there's some things that I'm just not going to do at this age. And I don't care what anybody says. It's like, if you're living in dysfunction and you've decided to do that for all these years, that's you and your life's decision to say that. For me, it's not going to happen.